let's talk about it.
Welcome home
my
to St.
stance
Anne's,
in
a place of
Scripture,
community,
wrestle with it,
love,
get
and
it.
faith. No matter who you are
Sometimes
or where you are
requires
in
a
your
lot of
spiritual journey, there's a place for you at
Sometimes your
Christ's
shoulder gets
table.
popped out of place.
Join us Sundays at 10 a.m. or anytime
So
online.
coming around,
We look forward to seeing you.
But coming around, everybody should get a Post-it note, and if you don't have something to write with, we have things to write with. I don't know if they work or not, but we have options. But everyone should get a Post-it. And don't worry, before you panic, I know you've all been in those like growth meetings for work where they're like, write an idea on a Post-it and stick it on the wall, and then you never see it again. These are your Post-its. And I'll tell you a secret. If you refuse to do this activity, I won't know. There are no, we're not going to do any icebreakers. I'm not going to put it on a big sheet on the wall, so don't panic. I know everyone immediately, when you get a Post-it, you panic, right? Am I the only person who has so much PTSD from like church growth or school stuff? Yeah, in service, it's coming. All the teachers are just like, it's coming for us. Don't worry, so is the video about bloodborne pathogens. Anyone who has worked in education knows about the videos, right? You get the videos at the beginning. Okay, don't worry, I'm not going to do that to you, but you do need a Post-it and something to write with, because we're gonna talk through our readings today because they are pretty heavy hitting. And the reason they're so heavy-hitting is because it's so important that we hear them. Because sometimes when we get to Scripture, sometimes you can be like, well, that was then. I mean, it's not really an issue for us now. And so you kind of check out and you're like, okay, what do I need to do at the grocery store this week? What do I have to do at work? I get it. You think I don't get it. I totally get it. I know y'all check out sometimes, and that's okay. Today, it's not probably one of those days. Today, it's one of those, oh, God's talking to me. Okay, so we're going to talk about it. Because our culture perceives greed as a good thing, right? We tell kids to be driven. We tell you to be successful. And how do we measure whether or not you're driven or successful? You know the answer. Stuff. Money, what's your stock portfolio look like, what kind of car are you driving, what kind of house are you living in. We measure success based on these things. That's how we know if you're successful or not. And frankly, we measure ourselves that way too, right? And I'm not going to lie to you. Our identity is really wrapped up in these things. Can I tell you I'm having an identity crisis every time I get in my car? Okay, I'm just going to be real with you. Yes. If you know me at all, you know that I loved my Prius. I loved it. My Prius was exactly the car for me. Loved my Prius. But then I needed to use a wheelchair. And then I had more kids than can fit in a Prius. And it was time. It was time. And so we go to the car dealer, and I'm, choosing this car out. And the car dealer is like, oh, aren't you excited? This is, it's like the best minivan, da da da. And I said, no, I'm not. Do you see that car over there, that S2000 you have parked in there that only me and my dog would fit in? That's what I'm dreaming of. Okay, but here's the thing. The reason I tell that story is, one, because you should pity me, because I drive a land boat now. And some people are like, don't pity me. No, pity me. I'm looking for pity right now. But the reason I tell that story is because we get very, very tied to our... Oh, thank you. All right. Save that for later. We get very, very tied to our identity being wrapped up in our stuff, right? So the readings today are so heavy-hitting and so important because throughout time, humans have struggled with this. Throughout time, we have struggled with what is it that we are living for? And we put so much time and so much effort, and our identity is wrapped up in the accruing of stuff. right? And we even judge ourselves based on the stuff that we have. Do you ever get in those situations where, I'll use an example. Eric and I got invited to go to the St. Luke's Heart Gala. Now, I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm not really a gala kind of girl. And I'm not used to, it's been a really long time since I've worn like full-length stuff. I can pretend to be that way, but so we're sitting there and they have this auction for all these things. And we're sitting there going, I don't think that this is really reflective of who we are. But when you are in those situations, do you sometimes get sucked into thinking of yourself that way too? You're like, oh, everybody else in this room lives like this. Does that mean I'm not doing it the way that I should be? Should I be in a position where I'm bidding for a guitar that costs $50,000? Because when we get into these situations, we start to compare ourselves, don't we? It's natural human condition. We just do it. And I'll add that in our human time, it is huge. In fact, it's been a very, very long time since there's been such a strong separation of haves and have-nots as what we have in our society. But so we are marketed to. We are sent messages that we, not only if we were not drawn to think of ourselves this way anyway, which we are, we also have these messages constantly that we are supposed to consume, that who we are is measured by what we are capable of consuming. It's been like this throughout time. It's really, really strong right now. We all feel that pressure, okay? And so when these folks come to Jesus with this, he's like, you missed the point. You forgot it when we were talking about it in the Old Testament, and we forgot it again, and we just keep forgetting it. What are our priorities? Because that's really what this message today is about. And I want us to think about that. Because we can know in our heart of hearts, right? Intellectually, we might know what our priorities are, but when all these things, all these messages are bombarding you all the time, when you are surrounded by it all the time, it's easy to forget what your priorities are. And that's Jesus' message. And that's Paul's message, and that's the Old Testament message, and it's the message that we have to hear. It's Mr. Rogers' message. I mean, it's a message that you and I have to hear all the time. All the time. Because we're fighting up against a culture that says that the Christian message is wrong. And if you are naturally driven to one way of being, which is we're naturally driven to be kind of greedy, the messages that you are surrounded by all the time are that you are meant to be greedy. It is a strength to be greedy. And then every once in a while, you hear God niggling in the back of your head that, oh, maybe that's not right. Which message do you think you're most likely to forget? God's message? Maybe. And that's why we as a church have to come back to it again and again and again. Because even as a church, we struggle with that, right? I mean, I go to clergy stuff, and they're like enormous churches with tons of money and all these things. And do you think I ever don't look at that and be like, oh, I mean, yeah. But when I'm in this place, I know how flawed that is. And that's why we do the work that we do again and again and again to remind ourselves. So I want us to reflect on it today. I want you to take a minute. That's why you have Post-it. What are your 3 top priorities? Who are you, really, truly? And who does it matter for you to be? What are your top 3 priorities? And I'll tell you mine and I'll give you a way to think about it too. I'll give you mine, but I'll also give you a way to think about it. If I come to you and I start taking stuff away, is it easiest if I use myself as an example? The reason I do that is not because I think it's super fun to talk about Meg all the time, but sometimes it feels safer when there's a distance between it, okay? So I'll use myself as an example. Okay. So who am I as a person? How do I identify myself? Okay, so you're going to come to me and you're going to start taking things away. You're going to take my house away. You're going to take my dog away. You're going to take all these things that I attach to who I am, right? By all means, please take my minivan. In fact, start there. I know, the kids love it. But anyway, not the point. Okay, as we take those things away, does that take my identity away? And we're going to keep stripping things away. So what are the things that you have to be who you are? To be who you are. And that can be a way of starting to think about what our priorities are. All right, I'll tell you what my priorities are because I've done this work quite a bit. And because, frankly, society and culture are so strong that I have to realign my priorities frequently. Because I know when they get confused, I get confused and things go wonky. So, my top 3 priorities, and these do not have to be yours, okay? And I'll tell you why mine are in this order, because they might be slightly offensive. And that's okay. My first priority is God. Number 1. Because if you stripped all of it away, if you took all of it away, that's the thing that I would absolutely need to be who I am. I can't lose that. My second one is my family, my immediate family. And the reason that my family is my second is because it comes from God. Okay? So it is very, very important to me that I live for my family. My third is my church and my religion. I know. Does that feel a little bit weird to you? It does. Because when I put those things in that order, then I remember, because I remember who God calls me to be, where God calls me to be, and things flow out of that. Because it can get really, really tempting. I'll be honest, I went back to work today. I have 70 schedules that I need to work on today, okay? I don't like scheduling. I really don't. But because there's all this pressure, I start to panic about it, right? And I start to go in all sorts of different directions. Or you're like, I've got to get this thing done at home, right? I've got to get this thing done. Did you know it's tax-free weekend? Yeah, it is. Do you feel like, I've got to go shopping? Can I just be honest with you? Tax isn't that much money, okay? And it's really not worth waiting in Kohl's for that amount of time. Okay, it's not. But we get these messages, right? That, oh my gosh, we've got to go school shopping this weekend. You don't. In fact, I recommend that you don't. To be honest, can we all agree that taxes are very, very important? Please pay them. I like my libraries, and I like my roads and things like that. I'm not here to tell you not to pay your taxes. Just go next week and buy your school supplies. It's fine. But we get all these messages, right? And it's really, really easy for our priorities to get skewed. We get pulled in different directions. We get told what our priorities should be. And that's why it's so important that we have really thought about them, that we have prayed about them, and that we remember them and have to frequently go back and be reminded of them. Because when they get out of order, things go wonky. So I want you to take a minute. And you may not know right now but I want you to take a moment. I want you to write them down. What is your first priority? Where if everything else got stripped away, because things can get stripped away. My church absolutely can get stripped away. You guys might decide, we're good. I might decide, Colorado looks pretty amazing right now. There are all sorts of things that could happen. Now, do I think my religion would? I can't believe I'm going to say this. The Episcopal Church is not always the one for me. Sometimes the Episcopal Church does really dumb things, really greedy things, things that I don't necessarily agree with. Sometimes people in power in the Episcopal Church, I know this is going online, it's fine, I'll answer about it later. They do things that I don't agree with. There was a moment when I was in seminary that I really prayerfully considered leaving the Episcopal Church and going to the Lutheran Church. That could easily get stripped away from me. I know. They like beer. I'm a Scotch girl myself, which, okay. Oh. I mean, I know my choir's over here converting me to the Lutheran Church. Tell me more, Ken. No, not really. But I want you to think about if things disappeared. I don't want to think about my family disappearing, but in history, can things happen? Absolutely, they can. Am I who I am? Can I be who I am? When my dad died, I went through a crisis. I'm probably still going through a crisis. Who am I without this person? Am I who I am anymore? So when you think about your priorities, who or what must you have to be who you are at your very, very core? Who or what are we living for? Like I said, we may not know right this second, but I want you to take the time to really, really think about it and pray about it. Because that's the message. It's all vanities is telling us that all this stuff that we get sucked into, it's not real. You realize that money's not real? It doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. And yet we live for it. We kill for it. We destroy the world for it. It's not real. A tree is real. Money is not real. Time is a human construct. It's not real. We have created it. And yet, we live around it, right? We've allowed it to consume us. If we work in education, we're down to the minute. That bell rings at 7:37, right? And you've got 3 minutes, and all the clocks are exactly the same. But it's not real. Do you know what's real? A child sitting in my office whose dog died. That's real. What am I living for, though? Am I living for my paycheck? Am I living for the bell? Or if I'm living for that kid who is in crisis? What are you living for? Am I living for my car payment or my house payment? Am I living for my children? Which one is real? And at the very, very core of that, God is the only real thing there is, the only eternal thing that there is. And if we're not living for that, it is vanity. And by vanity, I mean it's a waste of time. That's not to say those things don't matter, but they matter when they flow out of the other things. My house matters because it's where I have my family together. My church matters because it's the community that I live in that supports me to worship the God that I live for. Does that make sense? You and I so often get sucked into the details. We live for the details. But the details exist strictly out of the things that are our priorities. So today I ask you, what are our priorities? Choose your top 3. And like I said, here's the secret. I won't see this. I won't know if you even do it. But you should do it. And you should save it somewhere. In fact, because somebody gave me one, I suppose I should do it too, shouldn't I? But you all know mine, so. But I should write them down. Also, don't tell anyone in the Episcopal Church that I'm thinking about going Lutheran. Ugh. I don't like the music.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.